right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicole Davis, CEO of Tendenci, coming to you live from Houston, Texas. Thank you so much for joining us for day one of our three-part corporate membership management workshop series. In our sessions last month, we covered creating your individual membership strategy, configuring your individual membership types, and building out your individual membership application and the onboarding and communication process. Now that we're starting our sessions on corporate membership management, you'll be able to see how corporate memberships in Tendenci use individual memberships as one of the fundamental building blocks. So today we'll start by covering some basics, such as refining your corporate membership settings, as well as creating your corporate membership types and application, much like you do in individual memberships. And in our next session on Thursday, don't miss it, because we'll dive deeper into how individual memberships can be tied to corporate ones and the use of corporate reps for account management. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, so like we talked about last month, membership management is the very heart of Tendenci open source AMS, and this includes corporate memberships. Not all organizations use corporate memberships, and that's totally fine, but let's talk about how we can use them. Corporate memberships module, it gives your association a way to offer group membership packages to organizations, so that multiple people from the corporate member organization can participate in your member-only benefits online and at your events, and are still organized underneath one main membership package, which is the corporate membership. Corporate memberships do utilize many of the same features that individual memberships do. Like individual memberships, there are many admin tools and features that you can leverage. Again, you have automated processes to streamline the administrator and the member experience. So custom notices and reminders for join, renewal, and expiry. You also have a high level of customization available to you when you're setting up your corporate membership types and your corporate membership application. The types are a little different, so is the application, because again, you're dealing with an organization, not just one single individual at this point. So corporate membership types, you'll do things like set dues, apply a cap to the number of individuals who can join organizations of this type, and then you'll be able to tie individual membership types to a corporate membership type and create custom groups for account representatives, which are called our corporate reps. So we'll discuss steps 1 through 4 of this multi-step process. The first step being configuring your settings. The second step being defining your corporate membership types. The third being customizing your corporate membership application. And the fourth being adding your custom notices. And you'll see a lot of familiar patterns, just like we set up memberships in the system. Okay. So just like with individual memberships and Tendenci, the best way to start is by setting up a strategy. So some questions to consider are: how many types of organizations are joining your association or nonprofit, right? What dues are you charging for each of these types of organizations? And what factors into setting those dues? A lot of people will consider the number of employees who can join under each corporate membership type. For example, a bronze package might allow 5 employees, a silver package might allow 10, and a gold package might, allow 15 or 20, and so on, right? Another idea that factors into this is annual sales. And here you can see we've set up an example of this where the annual sales of the organizations joining are considered as opposed to the number of people joining under the organization. And in that case, you might not even set a cap, or you might set the same cap for every corporate membership type, because that's not factoring into the ultimate decision on how to create your membership tiers. Another Thing to consider is what benefits the organizations will be able to leverage by joining your organization, because you'll use this, just like we did with individual memberships, to create a landing page where corporate members are landing prior to getting to your corporate membership application, so they can read about why they would like to join in the first place. So let's talk about our first step, which is setting up your corporate membership settings. Some questions you'll encounter are things like who will receive notifications pertaining to these corporate memberships? Will corporate members be listed by default in a corporate directory? Is that one of your membership perks offered to organizations? Can individual members view and search for corporate members? And to add on to that, can those individuals also view individuals of an organization? In other words, the company roster, right? Are you going to allow donations on renewal? And will donations appear on a separate invoice, or the invoice containing the membership renewal? And this last part is a little bit complex that we can discuss a little later in the FAQ and Q&A sessions of our corporate membership management webinar series. Okay, so let's dive into the settings really quickly. The first one you'll see is anonymous searching corporate members. Most of the time, this will be set to false. This is just saying, is your directory of companies fully public? A lot of clients will have this set to false for fear of poaching of clients, completely understandable. So nine times out of 10, or 99 times out of 100, actually, you'll see this set to false. There are a couple of exceptions, like if there's a directory that is known to be public, such as schools or school boards, for example, those are the types of corporate memberships you might see as fully 100% front-facing and public. Okay, corporate membership admin notice recipients, who should be receiving notifications every time there's activity in the corporate membership module. In other words, who will receive notices when a corporate member joins, when a corporate member renews, when a corporate member is adding, reps or members to their organization. So that's going to be an email. It's comma delimited. So you might say, Nicole@tendenci.com, and maybe communications@tendenci.com if I'm not part of that email group, for example. So again, comma delimited. The next setting is whether or not corporate memberships are listed in directories. We have ours set to true, and that means every time a corporate member joins our association, they automatically get listed in our directory, which is this directory here. They will be listed in a pending status that has to be reviewed and approved prior to actually being live in the directories, but the listing is created by default. Okay, so that you don't have to go in and do this separately as another task. The only thing that needs to be done at this point is it needs to be reviewed and approved to be set to live. Okay. Corporate memberships use free passes. Whether or not event passes can be assigned to corporate memberships so that they may attend for free. Enabled, this is always set to true unless you're, for whatever reason, completely not using the module. Okay. This label doesn't normally get changed. It just says this is, if you want to change it though, you could say, organizational memberships or institutional memberships, for example, for one of our clients who deals with a lot of campuses. This is the setting I was also referring to in our notes, in our slide deck. Member can view corporate membership roster. So if this is set to true, members of your association can view the roster from each company. So they can view who is associated with what companies. Okay. And then if this is set to true, members can search for corporate members in the first place. Okay. Notifications on, this is if notifications should be sent to corporate reps. The default is set to on, meaning the notifications pertaining to a specific corporate membership will be sent to the corporate membership reps. Okay. This is set to true as well, typically because it creates ease of use for the end user when they're filling out the corporate membership application. If they are already a part of the system in the Tendenci system, then it will pre-populate the application with their professional contact details, okay? Like their work address, for example. Okay. This is again, it's a little bit complex, so we can go over it in the FAQ section of our call in our third session. But it's essentially saying, so the way the system is designed currently, when you allow donations on renewal, it's tied to that member object on the invoice, meaning you'll receive one invoice with the membership object, which is your corporate membership, right, with the set price, but then the amount that they're donating will also be tied to that member record. So if you want 100% clean reporting where donations are listed separately, separate entities, separate reporting, then you'll need to set this to true so that a separate invoice is generated that the corporate rep can then pay separately so that those two are separated for reporting purposes. Okay. Once you configure your membership settings, the next thing to do is setting up your corporate membership types, okay? It's gonna look really familiar because it's gonna look a lot like your individual membership types with a couple of exceptions, a couple of differences, right? So you will see the name of the corporate membership type, which will appear on the application when you're selecting that type. You will see the price field. This is the dues that an organization will pay when joining, right? You will see the renewal price, if it's any different than the join price, right? The description is just an admin field for notes on the specific membership type. So that is not seen anywhere on the front end by the end user. And then the membership type, this is where you'll start to see a little deviation from the individual memberships. Now we're getting into the territory of ways that individual memberships are tied to corporate memberships. So if employees of an organization can join under the corporate membership, what type of individual member should they be classified as? Okay, that's what this field here is saying. Then you'll see fields related to applying a cap. So if you are limiting the number of employees who can join under that specific corporate membership type, then you're going to check that box and then define that number in the membership cap field. So what is the maximum number of employees who can join under this corporate membership type, if any, right? If you set it to 0, then nothing will happen, especially if this if the apply cap is not checked. Now, if you apply the cap and you leave that at 0, that means no one can join under the organization. So be careful with this field if apply cap is checked. Now, you can actually allow above cap, but if you allow above cap, you can actually set a price for above cap. So let's say you're offering an incentive for the number of employees as your corporate membership types, right? Like we talked about earlier, how maybe the bronze would allow 5 members, a silver would allow 10. Well, what do you do with an organization that has 6 employees and doesn't want to pay for the silver level membership type, right? You can allow above cap and then just charge them for that one additional member who's joining, as opposed to having them go up an entire tier for one person. Okay. And then you have your approval method, right? So are you going to require approval for non-paid only, or are you going to require admin approval for all? Okay. Then you have your rep groups. And we'll get a little into reps in our next session, which is on Thursday. But essentially the person who is submitting the application in the first place for a corporate membership is automatically designated as a corporate rep. But you have the opportunity to add more reps in the future to each corporate membership. Okay. So when the membership record is created, but it's still pending maybe for review, then you have the option to place reps in that group, a specific group for pending membership reps. Okay. You also have the option to specify what group those reps will go into once that corporate membership is approved. Okay. And this is really good for communication purposes. Let's say you want to communicate to all reps who have pending memberships, right? You might want to address a certain issue or a certain question that a lot of them might have, some FAQ. So that's a good use case for utilizing that pending group rep group. Okay. Then, like the individual membership types, you have admin only. So you can allow admin only to assign certain corporate membership types to organizations. Let's say it's not one you necessarily advertise, or there's a tier, far above that you might have communicated to that organization that you'll be putting them in, or even below, right? That you don't want to necessarily list on the front end of your application. Okay. And then position, that is how you are ordering the types on your application as they appear on your corporate membership application. And then finally, status detail and permissions, of course. Like in any Tendenci object, you'll be able to set it to active when you're ready to use it. Okay. And then set the permissions to public as long as it's a front-facing corporate membership type. Okay. Once you have set up your corporate membership types, you'll need to factor in individual memberships, right? So at this stage, you're considering, okay, which individuals tied to your corporate members, which individual membership will they be tied to? So you'll use the same guidelines as in our membership management series to set up those membership types in that membership application, but with a few key differences, okay? So creating a membership type should be done as the first step to tying individual members to a corporate membership type, okay? So that might look like one type. You might say, individuals of an organization, right? That might look like multiple types. Let's say your corporate membership types are small business, medium-sized business, large business, and you want to distinguish between the individual members who are part of these or who are associated with these corporate memberships, right? You might want to create a membership type, individuals of a small business, individuals of a medium business, individuals of a large business, right? And a good use case is if you do have a lot of granular permissions on your website as far as who can access what content, then you might want to consider kind of separating those types. But if you have a kind of workflow in your organization where pretty much all members can access the same content, the same materials, do the same things, perform the same functionalities on your website, then you don't necessarily need to separate those, okay? Then you're going to create the membership application that is used for corporate members, okay? So you'll need to set up a second membership application, and then when you get to this section here above donations, you'll check the box used for corporate individuals, okay? Because that's the application then which you're creating that individuals of an organization will be directed to when they try to join an organization, okay? As you move on to configuring your corporate membership application, which is the next step, you'll see, again, a lot of familiarity here. You have the application name, which is how it will appear on the front end as the title of your application. The URL will be, it will be auto-populated for you based on what you enter in the name field, although you can customize it, of course. And then here are some differences. You do have an authentication method. So how are individuals joining a corporate membership verified, right? So you might set that to admin approval. It might be, okay, people with the same email domain as the URL of the corporate member, right? So For example, I might set this to email domain, and I create a corporate membership for Tendenci, and anyone with a Tendenci email address can then join under my organization, or that is how they are verified that they are a part of my organization. Okay, and we'll go into further detail here, of course. And then the description, it's basically the introduction to your application. It uses a WYSIWYG editor, highly flexible and customizable. Same thing with the confirmation text. And these are just identical in functionality and in view to when you set up your individual membership applications. Okay. And you have notes for administrators on the back end, and types, of course, which types should appear on that corporate membership application. Okay. One key difference here is that unlike individual memberships, you're setting up one corporate membership application, not multiple. So do take that into account when you're assigning your corporate membership types. You'll want to select all available, okay? All that are in use. And then your payment method, what type of payment will you accept as people go to process their membership application? And then decide if you want to include tax. You would check that box and then assign the tax rate in the next field. Now, this process here will likely be changing soon to allow you more flexibility, a lot more granular functionality when applying taxes. So, but I will go into detail on that a little later. Right now, it's just functioning as is, and nothing's changing. And if this changes, it will have to be in a site setting so that everyone who's using it as is currently will not be affected, okay? And then the membership application. This is how you're tying the individual of an organization application to your corporate membership application, okay? The one that we set up further above, right? So setting up this individual membership application, okay? Okay, and then parent entities, this is for reporting purposes. It's to bind applicants and, approved members to a specific entity in your system that you've set up already in the back end, okay? This is donation, which we briefly touched on. If you'd like corporate members to be able to donate on renewal, you'll enable this in the site settings. So we talked about the invoices that need to be considered when you're configuring your settings, but to enable it, you'll just check this box here and then label what that donation might be called, whether that's the fund or entity that's being donated to or what the donation is for, and then set a default amount if you would like. This can obviously be overridden by the applicant. And then again, like every other object, you have permissions and status, okay? So permissions, who can view and or change this application, and status is when you're ready to utilize the application, set it to active. If this is an old application, but you don't want to just delete it, which you shouldn't because it's tied to certain objects on the site, if it's already been in use, then you would just set it to inactive, okay? And then finally, the fields. What questions do you want to ask of your corporate members, right? So you'll see fields like organization name, organizational contact details like phone number and email, the company address, the company description, what industry the company belongs to. You might ask things like annual revenue. Ask them to define expectations, okay? And then if they are tax exempt status, allow them to check that box, and then send the number of employees. These are all examples of what by default you can pull into your application. And then of course you have your user defined fields. You'll see things like UD1, UD2, right? UD2, an example here, we have brand names, right? Like what other brands do you work with? What other companies do you work with? Okay. Okay, and then once you have your corporate membership application types and application set up, Then you can set up your custom notices. And these, again, if you have the settings configured, will go out to your corporate membership reps. Okay. And just like the individual membership notices, you'll see things like the event triggers are going to be join, expiry, renewal, and then you'll be able to set your time frame, whether it's how far in advance or how long after that event trigger the notice should be sent. Okay. And again, you can customize your notice using the WYSIWYG editor and site tokens that are available to you so that this also personalizes, it customizes and personalizes your notices. Okay. Okay, so let's scroll back up and go over this in practice and not in theory. Okay, so step one is configuring your settings. Okay, so I might want to put myself as a admin notice recipient. Okay, let's say I do want corporate memberships to get listed in directories. Of course, this should be enabled. I don't want members to be able to view a corporate membership roster. It's just not important. It's not a key factor into my organization's workflow. So I'm going to leave that to false. And then I'm going to leave members searching corporate members to true, though. So that just means members can look at the companies, even if they can't see who all is associated with each company. Okay. I'm turning my notifications on, so reps will receive notices. Okay. I always leave this to true. It's just more, it's just a more streamlined process for the end user by leaving this on. Okay. Okay. Show members list on directory. I don't know if I touched on this a moment ago, but this is just saying, you know how we have a setting where a corporate member can by default be listed in a corporate directory? This is just saying you can also show the roster of members on the directory listing in addition to it being tied to their membership, okay? And then use a separate invoice for a donation. We'll go ahead and leave this to true. That's clean and reporting, so I'm leaving it to true. And products. There is a separate back-end section called products that we implemented for a client last year, I believe. And it just allows a corporate member to really hone in on their corporate profile and what they offer, right? And it can be listed on their corporate profile if they're selling very specific products, okay? So I'm going to update this. Now that I have my settings defined, I'm going to define my corporate membership types, or rather I'm going to review what I've put in place, okay? So now that I'm in the corporate membership module, I can see that I can access this drop down here and go directly to types, okay? And I've chosen to base my membership strategy on annual sales as opposed to maybe the number of reps I'm allowing each corporate membership type to add. So what I'm going to do is set the same amount of individuals who can join for each corporate membership type. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is edit this first one here. I'm going to set the price to, $275. Okay. I'm going to bind all memberships, all members who are associated with an organization are going to be of the same membership type because it's not important to me, my organization's workflow to separate those, right? But if I wanted to, I could create a membership type that says individuals of companies that do annual sales under 250K, right? And I can do that for each of the corporate membership types, create an associated individual membership type for employees of that organization, okay? I'm going to apply a cap and I'm going to allow 10 members, okay? I'm going to allow above cap, but I'm going to charge $50 additional for every rep who joins above that cap of 10, okay? So let's see, the cap of 10, allow above cap is $50. And then I'm going to require approval for non-paid members only. I don't want to have to review everyone if they've paid. I'm going to assume that they've done their due diligence in filling out the application process. Obviously, you can retroactively update if you notice something off, right, about an applicant that's been approved. you can retroactively take away their membership status. So that is not an issue as a site administrator. But requiring approval for non-paid only definitely eases the manual burden that an administrator would normally have to perform on the website. So kind of a compromise situation here. So I've got a group for reps upon pending. I can create one if I need one, but right now I just have a group for the ones who are approved, okay, of corporate primary representatives, okay? So I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to apply the same details to the other ones. Okay, I'm going to put a cap on of 10 and allow above cap, but charge 50 for additional employee. Okay. Okay, this should be relatively quick. I think I have one more after this. Should be everyone. Okay. Well, let me just make sure. I'll click on one at random. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now I have applied this logic that my corporate membership tiers, that my types are based on annual sales. I'm allowing the same number of employees to join as individual members under that corporate membership for each corporate membership type, because I'm not considering my types to be based on the number of employees. I'm considering it to be based on annual sales. However, I am letting additional members join an organization as long as they pay a fee of $50 per additional employee, okay? So we've defined our corporate membership types, and now we need to customize our corporate membership application. And bear in mind that we've already created an individual membership type and an individual membership application to be utilized in corporate memberships, okay? So these are those building blocks I was talking about earlier. So, but let's actually take a look at that really quickly. I'm going to navigate away from corporate memberships for just a moment, and I'm going to scroll down to memberships, okay? Membership types. You can see my corporate membership individual that's tied to all individuals who join under an organization, right? Because for each corporate membership type, that is the type I've chosen to bind those individual members to, okay? And then when it comes to applications, I've created an additional application for individuals of an organization. Again, it's going to be this one here, right? That people who are joining an organization are going to fill out as individuals of an organization. Okay, and we can actually take a look at this on the website. You'll see that you get this pre-add form, right? So the first thing I'm going to do as an individual of an organization is choose my organization. Okay, and once I've done that, I'll get to the actual application portion, which is the application that you've created on behalf of individuals of an organization. Okay. Okay. So we have set up those individual membership components. The next thing we're going to do is customize our corporate membership application. Okay, so I'm going to navigate us back to corporate members. Okay, what I'm going to do is, now that I'm in the corporate membership module, I'm going to click on my admin backend. Okay, and go directly to the applications this way. Okay, so I have my corporate membership application here. I could see on the back end all of those pieces that we discussed from the slide deck. Sorry, give it just a moment to load. Well, sorry about that. I think there might be something wrong with my connection here. Let's try that again. It's not my browser. It is my browser, apparently. Okay, well. Sorry about that, folks. I might need to update my browser again. Okay, well, here we are. Back on Chrome, and it's working, so. Where was I? Corporate membership applications, right? Okay, let's go to the admin backend. Let's go to our applications and click on this one here. That other one is not in use. I can only have one in use for corporate memberships at a time, okay? So I have labeled it something generic, corporate membership. You can change this, of course, at any time. Something like this, right? Instead of what was in there in the first place. Okay. You can update the URL path. Just remember that if you have this one linked anywhere, you'll need to update that link as well. So for example, if it's linked in your navigation somewhere, don't forget to update that link if you change the URL path, okay? Right now, my authentication method is set to admin approval, but I can put in an email domain or even in the application, you'll see a field called secret code where the person submitting the application can put in a code and then give that code to their members to use that as the verification method instead of the admin approval or the email domain, okay? Email domain is a little limiting because a lot of times employees might be using personal emails instead of work emails. So it's definitely probably the least used authentication method. But you know, for organizations who might require this, then you'll see that as the authentication method. Okay. Here's my description, which is essentially my introduction to the application. It tells you, what a corporate membership does, and then tells you basically the onboarding process, right? So someone will complete the corporate membership application, and by default, they will become a corporate rep of that corporate membership. Once that membership application is complete, they can then register on behalf of their individual members, or they can send the application to the members for them to complete. So it's really up to how the organization would like to handle what will be the burden of the individual members and what will be the burden of the rep instead, right? So you can put it all on the rep to add their individual members as long as they have all that information needed for the individual membership application. Okay. But again, if you're going to send other employees of the organization, you will send them to the individual of a corporate membership application, right? To sign up under their company. Okay. Then the confirmation text, again, works just like the regular membership application, the individual one. This is what they'll see on the screen immediately after submitting their application. These are admin notes, right? And then again, select what corporate membership types will appear on the application. Because you're only using one corporate membership application, select all of the active corporate membership types that a corporate member is able to choose from, okay? And then finally, your payment method, if you're going to include tax. And then like we discussed earlier, on individual membership components that are building blocks, you're going to assign which membership application is associated, okay? Which individual membership application is associated. Parent entities, this is if, I mean, 9 times out of 10, you'll see this one as a parent entity by default. That's just the organization itself. But you might want to create some sub-entities for reporting purpose, like corporate members as an entity instead that will fall under the parent entity of Acme Association, for example. Okay. If you are enabling donation on renewal, you would check this box, and then you can change the label here that will appear on the front end of the application. So maybe I'll change this to scholarship fund, for example, if that's what I'm collecting donations for. And then set a preset donation amount that they, of course, will be able to change. They won't have to donate that amount, but it gives them an idea of what is a typical donation, right? And then finally, set this to public once you're ready for the public to be able to start using this application, and active, okay? And then we get to the fields. Like we discussed, you'll see things like the organization's name that is checked by default because it will appear on every application. What type, right? And if they're doing an authorized domain, okay? That would be like when we talked about the email domain authentication method, it would be like saying, okay, tendenci.com is my authorized domain. So that anyone who's signing up as an individual under the organization would have to have an email address ending in tendenci.com, at tendenci.com, okay? You'll still see things like, the details. You might want to ask them for a logo, for example, if you're having them listed in a directory, right? An address, contact details, phone number. If there is a specific organizational email address, you might want to ask for that information. Then the description, you can use UD fields as well if you're asking questions that are very specific to your organization and don't appear as a default field. You can use user-defined fields, right? So this is UD2, but I'm putting in, brand names as the label, right? I just created some sample admin fields. So for example, if I'm asking a question on the application and I want an administrator who's reviewing the applications to write some sort of notes, I might put an admin notes field here, right? And then of course you have admin only fields like when the corporate member joined, when they're expected to renew, their status, and items like that. Okay. So once you have modified your fields to your liking, and so once you set your fields, you can change the field types if needed. For example, for the description, rather than a short text field, I might want to change that to a paragraph text field, right? So I can go to my corporate membership applications, okay, back here, back a couple of breadcrumbs, and click on application fields. I want to filter by my application that I'm using. And then once I do that, I can click on the field that I'd like to edit, okay? Like right here, right? I can change that from a regular text field to a paragraph field. I can ask questions that might require a checkbox, like an acknowledgement field, right? I might give them a list of items to choose from, which might entail a drop down or radio buttons, for example, right? So those are some options when you're modifying your application fields, okay? Now that I've modified my application, I can look at it on the front end to make sure it looks like what I would like it to, okay? So here's my organization name. Here's that UD field, right? I put in a description into the text field area. Actually, if you want to take a look at that, let's do that really quickly. So you know where to add help text if needed, if clarification is needed on the application process. Okay, so here's our fields right here. That was, are you a corporate member or associate member? So we'll take a look at that one here. And you'll see that I've added help text. I've added a whole paragraph, right? That is going to appear on the front end of the application as an explanation on how to fill out that question, okay? Then you have address, contact details, a paragraph for a company description, so they can put it up to 500 words, right? And this is a UD field that I can change at any time. And then finally, their membership type and their payment method. This is an admin only field. So I'm seeing this because I'm an administrator, but the person filling out the application will not see that. What they'll see is actually this. So when they're first submitting an application, it's going to collect their contact details. Okay, so let me use one of my animals' names since I've put in my information so many times. Okay. Oops, let me change that to there. Okay, so it's going to ask me for my contact details because I will, by default, be a rep for that organization. So at a minimum, these are the details that have to be in the system, okay? So I'm going to continue to add the corporate membership. It's going to take me to the application, and I'm going to fill out the this is one of my cats. Okay, the really fluffy one that you saw earlier, Laura. I'm say I'm an associate member. Okay. Just sample text is fine here. Okay. And I'm going to pay with a credit card. So what's going to end up happening is it's going to say that I don't have, yeah, the online payment is not set up. This is our sandbox site. But what it will do is create a record, even if they haven't made it to the payment portion. So what I'm going to do is toggle back to my admin account here, and I'm going to search via the admin backend for new members. Let's see. Let me just search by today because that'll be the easiest way of finding it. Okay, and now I see this application. So they do have an open invoice because they have not paid online yet. Okay, but I can, if I would like, just go ahead and approve that selected corporate membership. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and approve it. And now let's take a look at the profile. Oops. Let's do this, corporate members. I want to go to the front end. So we're going to go to the front end here. Now, if I search by company name and I scroll down to the T's, I can see my new company. Okay. So I can see that as an administrator, I can see their details. I can see what membership type they are. I can access their invoice if I want to maybe download and send it to them. Or if I need to make any modifications, I can here. Okay. As a site admin. I can join the corporation. I can fill out, details on behalf of individual members that are associated with this organization. Okay. Which takes you straight to this with the organization already selected for you. Okay. And then I can look at the roster. Right now, there are no members associated because although I've filled out an application on behalf of the organization, I'm not necessarily a member, not yet, until I add myself as a member. Okay. And we'll get into detail on our next call, in our next session, on the difference between corporate reps and individuals of the organization, because there are definitely a lot of use cases where those two items will need to be separate, right? Like a corporate rep to manage the account and add members, and then members to be associated in some way, shape, or form that do apply towards the membership cap if there is one. Okay. So I have configured my settings. I've defined my corporate membership types. I've made sure I have the individual membership building blocks necessary to move forward, and then I've customized my corporate membership application. Let's check out the notices. Okay. So I'm going to go to the admin backend in corporate memberships and click on my member notices. This is all going to look very familiar because it works exactly the same way as the individual custom notices. It's just the tokens are obviously different because it pertains to the corporate membership database instead of the individual membership database. And so the site tokens are going to be different, but everything else is the same. The event triggers are the same, right? It's a join when they applied, when they're renewing, when they're expiring. And then the ability to customize your content is also the same. If I click on this link here, I can expand the tokens and I can see everything that I can use to personalize this notice to my corporate members, okay? So we'll click on one really quickly just to take a look at what it might look like. I have one set up to go out one day after a corporate member expires. And so it just says greetings, and then it has the rep's first name in the system, right? So as a rep, since I submitted an application on behalf of Tomcat's company, that means that I'm actually a rep. I'm the only rep right now. So I would, if a notice went out to me, I would receive a notice that said greetings, Nicole. Okay. Your corporate membership for Tomcat's company with Tendenci has expired. To renew your corporate membership, go to, and then it will generate a renewal link for me that I can click on to renew my corporate membership application. Okay. I can also just view the application details by clicking on the view link. And then you can, of course, put in details pertaining to the organization as well as by using site tokens. Okay. Other than that, really, these work exactly the same as individual membership custom notices. The only difference is that these will be going out to, if you have it configured this way, this will be going out to the corporate rep as opposed to going out to the individual members that are associated. Okay. And we'll dig into that again in our next session when we really start discussing more in depth the use case for corporate reps. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions right now? So far, we've covered configuring the corporate membership settings, right? And configuring the corporate memberships themselves, the membership types, the membership application, and creating custom notices. And on our next call, we'll talk about corporate representatives very much in detail, and then how we are tying individual members to a corporate membership. And then finally, importing data if you're starting from another system, for example, with already a database of corporate members. Okay. Any questions? No?
No.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you on our call on Thursday. We have a lot more to discuss pertaining specifically to corporate members, and then how you can bind individuals to a corporate membership. And we did sort of cover that a little bit today, how you allow individual members to be associated with corporate members, but there are also a lot of things that you can do as an administrator to, especially retroactively, modify this, okay? All right. Well, thank you so much again for your time, and I really look forward to our call on Thursday, okay? All right. You all have a great day. Thank you so much.